Today's game features Feibert playing as white against Mikhail Tal as black. Move 1. White establishes a central pawn on d4. Preparing a pawn break. Black completes minor piece development, improving the position quietly. White develops the knight naturally, the position is unclear. Black pushes the pawn to c5. We have the queen's pawn game. On move 5, white pawn moves to c3, fighting for the critical squares. Black supports the center with e6. White continues with deploys the bishop to f4, improving the worst-placed piece. Black plays pawn moves to b6. White pawn to e3. Black deploys the bishop to e7. White maneuvers the knight to d2. Black kingside castle. White pawn to h3. Interestingly, advances the pawn to d6, staking out territory. On move 15, white develops the bishop naturally. Black bishop moves to b7. It's white's turn. Kingside castle, securing the king. Black plays knight to d7. White rook to e1. Black now deploys the queen to c7. Now, finds a stronger diagonal. Black brings the rook to d8. White bishop moves to f1. Black deploys the queen to c8. We're at move 25. White pushes forward to a4. Black pawn moves to a6. White the queen enters the battle. Moving forward, black repositions the queen to a8. White responds with bishop to d3. Black advances the pawn. Moving forward, pushes the pawn to e4. Black pawn takes pawn. White pawn captures pawn. Initiating an attack. Black pawn captures the pawn on d4. Move 35. White knight captures the pawn on d4. Black advances the pawn, the position sharpens. White advances the pawn to b4. Black activates the rook enters the attack. White brings the rook to a3, missing the best continuation. Black now improves the bishop's scope. Moving forward, white the pawn marches forward. Black knight jumps to e5. Moving forward, white bishop slides to f1. Black pawn moves to d5. Excellent. We're at move 45. White bishop takes knight on e5. Black rook removes the bishop. Next, white advances the pawn. Black continues with rook captures the pawn on e4. A textbook endgame technique. White knight captures rook, gaining an advantage. Black pawn takes knight, simplifying. Pushing for the win. And here, white places the knight on c2. Black advances to a5, a model endgame performance. White places the bishop on b5, an inaccuracy. Black plays pawn takes pawn. The path to victory is clear. Move 55. White knight takes the pawn. Moving forward. Repositions the bishop. Check. The king must move. A candidate move worth considering. White activates the king. It's black's turn. Advances to e3. White activates the rook in the endgame. Black moves the rook to d2, the endgame idea is clear. Now, white rook eliminates the rook. At this point, black pawn takes rook, winning material. Interestingly, rook to b3. Feibert resigns. Mikhail Tal wins the game.